Hey ladies, welcome back. Again, my name is Kate, and we're going to emphasize a little bit more on what we talked about last week with what it is to be a correction officer. First, let's do a short little recap on last week's presentation. Correction officers monitor cameras, they conduct searches on inmates and the rooms, they watch the interactions between all the inmates, and they inventory all sharps throughout the shift consistently. Now first, let me start out by asking, just from what you know from the job, what would you expect an annual salary to be? Just think about it, soak it in, and hold the thought. I'm going to give you a brief example of just how dangerous this job really can be. Officer Fraley worked in a prison here in Arizona. Just like every other day, she walked on shift, totally prepared, never thought it would be the last day. She was held there, captive, for 15 days. She was tortured, beaten, and raped for 15 days before she was let out. Think about, would you be willing to do that? Now, let's move on to the type of equipment you would think an average officer would have. What would they carry on them on a regular basis, maybe to keep them protected, whatever circumstance may be. Can I get a volunteer to stand up and...
I would think they would carry pepper spray, a taser, or handcuffs at the least.
Thank you. Those are all very good examples of what we should have. However, not all of us do. Not every officer gets the privilege to carry cuffs. No officer gets the privilege for a stab-proof vest. Only the special forces within adult corrections is able to have any sort of pepper spray or gas canisters. And more importantly, towards my previous example, very few facilities are actually trained on what to do when you're taken captive by inmates. With that, we're going to carry on into specific circumstances an officer would need such equipment as we've just spoken about. These inmates, all the time, make homemade shanks. We have to respond to any type of assault, any type of fight, riots, as well as in the adult side of corrections. The ratio from officers to inmates could be as low as 1 officer per every 50 inmates, and can be as high as 1 officer to every 100 inmates. Think about that. No handcuffs, no stab-proof vest, nothing. Just a radio and your hands-on training with 50 plus inmates. On that note, we're going to move on to another activity. I need 2 volunteers for this hands-on activity. So here, we're going to have an inmate who's minding her own business, reading a book. And we have another inmate who's got beef. So as you can see, she had a shank. Maybe she already knew somebody was going to come and assault her. Here I am thinking she's innocent. She's being assaulted, when in fact that would have been mutual if I hadn't been there. And now I've just been stabbed because I don't have a stab-proof vest or anything. Now, let's reflect back on the question I asked earlier as to what do you think a correction officer would be paid to do this everyday life-risking job? Well, let's start to a Phoenix police officer. Every day they face life-threatening circumstances, just as correction officers do. However, the Phoenix salary for police officers is $51,000 a year, whereas for corrections is only $41,000 a year. Think about that. $10,000 difference for essentially the same job. Or maybe even a correction officer arguably could be a more dangerous job. But that's not the point of this. The point is the pay difference. Both face life-threatening situations on a daily basis. However, only one, the Phoenix PD, reflects the life-threatening challenges in their pay. In conclusion, I'm a very dedicated officer. I love my job, and I love to serve as I am. However, I would also like for our job to reflect what we do, just as police officers get to reflect in their pay as for what they do.